Should I start now?
Yes.
So mean.
These are bloopers.
Well, I purposely did that. Gotcha.
That's a blooper.
Okay. Real talk, though. So, first, Molly, stop smiling because you're really freaking me out. Molly is my producer, aka also my roommate. She's videotaping me, as you can see.
They can't see, but
okay. So
you should say hi.
Okay. Hello. My name is Laura. I am 20 years old as of November 1st, 1998. So young, somewhat. Can you stop laughing? This isn't funny, Molly. I should have really gotten a professional producer, to be honest, but my roommate's all that's going to do for now because I'm at a college salary. So basically, I'm starting this YouTube channel about myself to explain my life and everything that it entails, which is a lot of crap, but mostly medical history because I'm amazing. I'm just kidding, I'm really not that cool, but I'm also really sarcastic and it's not funny. But so basically, I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel for a very long time because I've been going through a lot of health issues with my body since I was about 15. So it's been about 6 years, and I'm finally getting some answers and getting somewhere, and it's a very rough road, as well as people don't really understand, you know, what it's like. And I personally watch YouTubers, and there's not very many people who have gone through this procedure and everything leading up to it. So being able to watch other people is a great way to learn and like kind of get you ready for what's going to happen to your own body. Also just in general, even if it's not like a sports related injury, you know, having MS or any kind of chronic disease can also relate to having chronic pain. So, and that I'm shouting out to my friend on that one because she's amazing. Her name's Megan. Anyways, so yeah, so I'm 20 years old. I go to school at Endicott College out in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm studying exercise science and biology. I hope to go pre-med and do physician assistant one day. Not really sure exactly what, but I love the field, most likely because I've gone through a lot of it. So at my house, I have my mom and my dad. Love them. I have 2 sisters that are older. I'm the youngest. My one sister is a huge CrossFitter. She's amazing. Look up to her every day. She's pretty great. If you want to go follow her, Jake Mai 21. Sure she'd appreciate it. And then my oldest sister, who is getting married in 2 months, likes to run. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. But yeah. So that's my family. Love my family. I also have a little dog. Her name is Nala. She goes by Shroomy because she kind of looks like a mushroom / puppy. You'll hear about her more because she's my homie. She's my dog. I just like her. That's really all there is to it. My family. So that they're a big base and support system for my journey and everywhere I've gone from that.
Cool. So
now that I basically kind of just gave the gist of like my autobiography about myself is the word that I'm looking for. I'm kind of going to explain more like why I'm deciding to start this and kind of like making an outing about it. This is a big deal for me personally. It's a vulnerable topic that isn't something I like to talk about very often. I'm the kind of person, you look at me, I look like I'm healthy, I look like I'm fit. You know, you're like, oh, she looks great, but you know, I'm also the same person who can't get her pants on in the morning without her roommate's help because she can't hold her leg up. So, like, it's a funny topic, but at the same time, like, it's so serious, and it produces mental health as well as physical health, like, problems and issues, and it's something that's really nice to talk about, and I've personally been wanting to get it out there. It's hard for me to talk about because it's very frustrating, and it's a big struggle of mine, but, as I've gotten older, I've noticed that it's something that, like, it needs awareness about, and it's, like, amazing to talk about, and I absolutely love sharing my story, because talking about it is something that, like, when you can relate to someone about it, like, it just makes you feel so much better. And, like, it's not something that everyone has to go through. And, like, someone at such a young age should not have to deal with chronic pain and trying to understand and wrapping their head around having to make life decisions about their physical health and feeling left out because they can't do things that everybody else can do because their leg doesn't work or because they're having another surgery, or it's terrible. So basically I just wanted to make a channel explaining my journey from pre-surgery, post-surgery. So I've had 3 surgeries previously. This will be my 4th one and hopefully my final until I turn like 60 or whatever, and get a replacement. But the whole aspect kind of surrounding it and how I got to that point of finding out that I needed to be accepted into the hip preservation program at Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester is a very long journey of doctor to doctor. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, because finding the right doctor who listens to you and doesn't think you're crazy is a very hard thing to do. And it's beyond stressful and causes so much anxiety to someone who is only 20 or 18 years old, or however old you are, and going through that, because no one understands it at all. So finding advocates for yourself as well as being one for yourself is a huge part of it. And I want to bring this along with me on my journey as I grow older and one day hopefully become a physician assistant, because sharing my story is personally helps me connect to patients, as well as it's just amazing to talk about that the human body can even overcome or do something like this, because like there's a reason it happened. It didn't just happen. So basically, like, the gist of my issue is when I was about 11 years old, I kind of started like having some stress fractures in my ankles and knees, and they didn't really know why. Around the age of puberty beginning for a female, around 11, 12.
I'm so sorry.
And so basically with that happening, it was kind of like a weird situation. My physical therapist wasn't really sure what was going on. So at that point, they had sent me for a lot of MRIs and x-rays. And I'll get further into it. I'm kind of just in this video gonna give you the gist. So at that point, they kind of figured out that I had some tears in my labrum, which is a very common procedure that everyone that people have, in your shoulders or your hips. So it's very normal to tear your labrum. It doesn't necessarily need to be fixed through surgery, but a lot of the time it is, just because the pain is really bad in your hips or shoulders. So they had MRI'd me up in Syracuse, and they had said, oh, like, blah, 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 like, you know, we can't fix it for you. And I was like, well, why not? Like, you know, what's wrong? And so they were like, we think a specialist should look at your MRI. And so I was like, okay, like, if you say so, like, whatever, I'll listen to you. So at that point, they had sent me out to Strong in Rochester, New York, which is about an hour and a half from my house, at this hip clinic with Dr. Giordano, who was a hip specialist out in Rochester. He was known for doing this and kind of working with it, so shout out to him, because he's amazing and hasn't given up on me yet. So basically that's where he had explained to me that I had hip dysplasia. It wasn't the kind of hip dysplasia that you're born with and it's like, oh, you walk funny and your legs are kind of like this. It was the kind of, you know, atypical case that was hidden behind other things, because I was already so muscular and so developed from doing gymnastics my whole life. Or at least at that point, for just a few years, my body was kind of just already moving, and it was impacting me in a different way. Besides the fact that genetics, my father's side of the family has terrible hips and he's had hip replacements, but I was getting at such a young age because I was doing a sport of such high impact, being gymnastics, and you see so many gymnasts with injuries related to this. And so I had seen him and he was like, oh, we gotta schedule surgery. So basically, the gist of this, because it is a lot to get into, is he wanted to schedule my surgery for my right side to do in that summer when I was turning 16 that fall. He wanted to do it in the summer, going into my sophomore year of high school. So I was set to do that. And then after that, kind of just a brief, like, cut down of this is basically after that, they're like, oh, if your left hip goes bad, we'll worry about that then. So I continued doing gymnastics after I healed a year later. My left hip started to go bad going into junior, senior year. So I had that fixed over Christmas, and it never kind of healed, and it kind of kept getting worse and worse. So going into my freshman year of college, it was still absolutely terrible, the pain. I couldn't sleep at night. My everyday activities were not of a normal 20-year-old or 19-year-old at the time. So I kept having pain and all these symptoms, and I will get into this in many more videos because it's just so much I can't get into it in one video. Is basically at that point something was wrong. You know, it wasn't my hips at that point, it was my nerves, my bowel was affected, all my body systems were kind of getting impacted in some way. I wasn't sleeping, I couldn't get dressed in the morning, you know, I didn't always want to eat, like anxiety was hitting me, it just all this kind of stuff. Like I wasn't living, I wasn't feeling good, and a lot of it was just like not normal, the symptoms that I was having. It wasn't just because, oh, I tore something in my hip, you know, something wasn't right, and it was the fact that my hip dysplasia wasn't corrected at the time, because a labrum repair is usually the first step in healing a hip in such a young individual who's very active. So at that point, I had somehow gotten sent to a neurosurgeon after seeing 3 pain doctors along the road, which, as I said a million times before, I will get into, but it's just like so much to talk about because 20 years is a long time to be alive. And so it's hard to get to in one video. Like, I mean, it's a lot, and I'm more than happy for people to drop down questions below about anything about my life, my surgeries, anything. There's so much to talk about, and anyone who wants to go see my doctor or needs tips, I love answering questions or talking about it because it's my life and it's something I'm passionate about. So after that, I basically went and saw a neurosurgeon where I was diagnosed with TCS, which is tethered cord syndrome. So it's basically an elongated spinal cord that goes further past the lumbar spine into basically where your tailbone is, and it kind of encapsulates some of your nerves and kind of twists them, and your bowel, your reproductive system, all your lower kind of body system. And after I kind of went through all of that is when I finally was able to get accepted into the hip preservation program at Strong Hospital, where I'm getting the PAO surgery done on June 18th of this summer. PAO stands for periacetabular osteotomy. It is quite the mouthful. It's basically when you kind of change the degree of the pelvis so that the acetabulum can completely cover the head of the femur rather than my femur kind of falling out. So that's basically the gist of like all of that. I mean, 3.5 surgeries. It's a lot. So I'm definitely gonna be making more videos. This is kind of just my introduction, my brief summary. I probably forgot things, but I will be making more. But please ask questions below, and there'll be more videos coming your way. Thanks, and subscribe.